Welcome. My name is Lee Garrison, and most of you know me, I think. Welcome to Product Camp. This is our 5th event, so I'm really pleased to welcome you here. I think those of us that started this off back in 2008 never really imagined it would go quite this far. So you're part of a movement worldwide, not just here in Toronto, but all over North America and Canada and even in Europe, right, Steve?
Yeah, I've been, I've been there.
Okay, good. So, first of all, for how many of you is this your first product camp? How many are first timers?
Wow.
Okay, I'll take that back. How many of you have been to a product camp before? Okay, so all of you, hold your hand up, keep your hand up. Okay, so everybody that's here for the first time, those are your go-to folks, all right? Those are the folks that if you have any questions or you're curious about something or you want to know, like, what the heck is happening here or how do I get involved in something, those are the folks you talk to. Yeah, well, no, I'll tell you about that. So, okay. Good. Well, that's great. Man, I'm really impressed that there's so many new folks here. It's wonderful. So first, a little housekeeping, and then I'll tell you about the day, and then we'll roll into the keynote here. For those of you that haven't been to this facility before, this is obviously part of Ryerson University, and the IT Student Management Association, that's part of the Graduate Management School here, has very kindly sponsored the venue for us. And there are a few volunteers from ITMSA around. They're usually wearing the black T-shirts with ITMSA on it. And you can ask them for help if you need it. And let's see, the 3 classrooms that are going to be for the sessions are across the hall on the other side. They're all got signs out in front. There is also a student lounge for any of you that want to have, small round tables, birds of a feather, other discussion groups, just down the hallway past the elevators there. And feel free to use that as well. And if there is an overflow of sessions and topics, we'll schedule something down there as well. Washrooms are to your right here, down this hall, at the end of the hall there. And I think there should be water, and I'll find out where there's a water fountain and stuff like that. But we do have some water and juice and stuff at lunch too. Let's see, Wi-Fi. For those of you that haven't noticed, there are signs at the podium by the registration with the Wi-Fi login and password. So get on there and tweet and do whatever you need to keep in touch with everybody. What we found in the past is it's very useful to sort of be commenting on what's going on in the sessions, because then people in the other sessions can also find out what's happening. And as you'll find out in Product Camp, it's quite all right to use the rule of 2 feet, which is if you're not interested in this session and there's something else going on that you are more interested in, then you should go do that. Okay?
And we can do that now.
Everybody except for Steve. So first of all, let me thank the sponsors. Obviously, we could not do this without their help. And there's a few of them here that I want to specifically introduce you to. Pragmatic Marketing, John Milburn at the back there in the green shirt. John's come in from the West Coast, and I gather has been on the road for a week or something, or two weeks. So he's ready to go home, probably. But actually, John is one of the folks that's been involved in probably more product camps than anybody I know. You and Paul Young, at Austin there, have probably been the guys that have started this whole thing. And John's written a number of interesting things about product camps, so definitely an authority in our midst here. And John, I want to thank you and Pragmatic Marketing for your sponsorship of product camps all over the world. These guys have really, made it happen, and it's wonderful. So thanks a lot.
All right.
Yeah. We have also this year the folks from Rally, our sponsor, and Bob Gower is up from New York. Bob is an agile coach and very experienced in the software world, so definitely a good expert for you to pick his brain today and soak up as much information as you can. I know Bob will be leading at least one of the sessions this morning and perhaps some others during the day. So thank you, Bob, for coming. Yeah. We also have a new sponsor this year that's working with us at the TPMA as well, Macadamian from Montreal, Ottawa. You guys from Montreal? Okay. Didier back here, and Barb Hampton as well. Didier, why don't you just take half a second and explain what Macadamian does?
In half a second. We're about a 200-person company out of Ottawa. We do user experience design and software development consulting. Often product managers or product managers, sort of the VP of product management, certainly related to product management, user experience design, software development, in a pinch. We're really just here to see Steve Jobs.
Okay.
We'll be out in the hall.
Okay.
So if you guys want to talk more with us sometime during the day, we're very happy to talk.
Great, thanks Didier. And I know Barb is going to lead off one of the sessions on user interface design, so you can catch her there. Perspectus, is David here? David, where did David go? Okay. Perspectus is a new startup out in Bolton doing cloud applications and support. David Stott was going to be here, I don't see him, so if he shows up later, I'll introduce him. Is there anybody else from Perspectus here? No? Okay. And then Wild Apricot, Dimitri, I don't think is here yet either. Wild Apricot is just joined the TPMA this year to sponsor our web platforms. We're hosting the TPMA site now, doing not-for-profit web application membership application platform. And OneDesk, Brendan, anybody from OneDesk here? No? Okay. OneDesk is also another Canadian company, Montreal-based, and has been working with the TPMA. In fact, those of you who have been following the news, they just acquired Rima Technologies, the feature plan product, so they built that now into their portfolio of support and product management tools. And last but certainly not least, TPMA. Charles is the president now. I'm the lowly secretary, so Charles will be a spokesperson. There are quite a few other members from the Product Management Association here today, so feel free to pick their brains and ask them about stuff that's going on in product management if you're new to the field. All right. Again, thanks to Ted Rogers School for hosting us very much. The agenda for the day has been posted, but basically we're going to do the keynote with Steve. Then at 10:45 we'll start the first sessions across the hall in the classrooms there. There are 3 different tracks, as you've seen on the open grid. For those of you who are new to Product Camp, the thing on the wall there is called the open grid, and that's the schedule that is somewhat movable during the day. So the topics on the far wall, on the glass there, are ones that you'll be voting on. The little, if you didn't get little red stickers, you should have 3 of these things, and those you get to choose your top 3 choices, and based on those we'll schedule the rest of the day. If you have a new idea or a topic you want to either present or have a panel discussion or facilitate, write it on a Post-it note like this and post it on the wall there, and then people can vote on it with their red stickies. You can go around and promote it, talk it up a bit, and at lunch we'll have anything new. People can stand up and say a few words and pitch their session for the afternoon. We also, if you remember from the pre-event announcements, have a session called the Ignite 5-minute sessions. I think it's mostly full. Alan, you have maybe 1 slot left? Okay, so there's 1 5-minute slot left for the Ignite sessions. If you're interested, go talk to Alan at the back there. And what else do I need to know? Oh, volunteers. Thank you. There is a volunteer sign-up sheet just by the registration desk there, and what we most need is for people to help out with note-taking or timekeeping in the session. So if you can help out with one of those things. Rue, would you put your hand up back there? Rue, that's Rue. She'll be hanging around the registration desk occasionally, and she can help out and get you signed up for that. So thank you for doing that. Draw prizes. If you didn't get 2 of those, make sure you get one. Put half of it into the basket. And You see, this afternoon at 4 o'clock we'll have a reception, beer and wine, food, prizes, all that sort of thing. Except me or you. Me? Okay, sorry. So,
Well, one of us.
maybe I'll hold still, okay, or speak loudly. So, Steve and I go way, way back, unfortunately. Or fortunately.
Which is difficult
I
considering
know.
we're both
We're
30,
29.
39.
I know, it's crazy. We were introduced at birth. Now, when I think my first product management job was at KL Group doing Java development tools, and I got hired as a product manager, and I went, what the heck is a product manager? What do they do? So I Googled product management, and I found this interesting company called Pragmatic Marketing. And relatively new, bunch of guys who were teaching people about product management and technology, were experienced themselves. So I convinced a couple of my cohorts, Saeed Khan and our president at the time, Greg Kiesling, to join me at one of the Pragmatic sessions down in Chicago. So we went down, we had a total blast, and this guy was, the teacher. So from there on, I was hooked. I mean, product management is my world. And Steve and I have worked together a lot over the years at various different companies, although you've been pretty consistent at it. Steve has now just moved to become CMO of a company called Primary Intelligence, and you'll have to ask him about that. But I'd like to turn over the keynote to Steve to get you warmed up and talk about what's happening in product management right now. So thank you for coming. We'll have lots more discussions during the day, and welcome, Steve. Thank you.
Okay, for those of you who are taking notes, my talk today is 1555. So we're going to look at some things as we go along, and that's if you're taking notes, those are the four things to remember. 1555. If you want to stay in touch with me, here are my coordinates. I don't know if you noticed it. I actually posted this a few days ago. 7/17 is my birthday, July 17th. And so I got a lot of birthday greetings from my Twitter stream. But here's me on Twitter, and here's me on Gmail, and here's my blog. And as Lee pointed out, I'm now the Chief Marketing Officer at a company that specializes in win-loss. And it's amazing that every time I engage in a conversation on this topic, everybody thinks, okay, well, that's about sales. And we're finding more insights about product and marketing than we are about sales. So I'll be talking about that at one of the sessions this afternoon, whenever that is. But I wanted to talk today about really what I've been researching over the last few months. I've talked to literally dozens of people about the state of product management. And what I find is this. Does anybody feel like we're being stretched a little too thin? That we were told to be strategic as soon as you get done with that tactical thing. And I shouldn't say this out loud, and I'm on video, so it's going to be really bad, but I came to work at this company with a very clear strategic goal as Chief Marketing Officer, and the first email I got was, can you give us a case study? Can you give us a new slide template? Can you be our marketing Marcom person? And it's taken me a while to even get this organization to see that there's something else going on. But we've all talked about, let's be strategic, and yet we're being pulled into the tactics. And so here's my new argument. What if we're doing it wrong? What if, instead of going strategic to tactical, we go tactical to strategic? What if we reverse engineer what works back to the strategy? So for my daughter started a business at the beginning of the year. You can find her at noagendahomeschool.com. And she's very much a lean kind of a startup, if you will. And she started with a strategy, and then the tactics weren't really supporting the strategy, or if you will, the reality of her life caused her to go backwards and say, let's look at what's tactically working and reverse engineer a strategy from it. So instead of saying, let's have this business idea and we'll build a product and we'll promote it and we'll sell it and then we'll operate it or service it or support it, what if we worked backwards. And in so many cases, the fun I wanted to make with my daughter is she started a business from scratch. I mean, there's nothing there. How many of us have had that experience? Isn't it generally, welcome aboard, you're the product manager, you're the product manager, you're the janitor of the product, right? You're the secretary of the product, and you're in an existing thing. And yet you feel, gosh, I ought to be more strategical. Maybe not. Maybe you should start over here and say, you know what, let's work backwards from the customer, from the existing customers, and identify those customers who suck. Does anybody have customers who are terrible? Yeah. My guess is they're in the wrong market segment. Oh wait, we haven't done any market segmentation. Well, why don't we go through, and I had this experience a couple of years ago, it's really funny. I was talking to the president of the company, and he said, and I said, have you approached market segments? And he said, oh, totally, yeah, we're the dominant vendor in 12 market segments. Which struck me as odd, because this was a startup. And I said, okay, and how many customers do you have? And he said, I just told you. They've got 12 customers in 12 different market segments. You know what? Let's look at those 12 and see which ones suck and shoot them. My dentist does this. No, shooting. But anyway, I went to the dentist a while back, and he said that his business was doing quite well, and he is now culling from his customer list people he doesn't like. And I said, but gosh, you're so agreeable. I mean, clearly I could find many people that I do not like. I mean, I pretty much hate everyone except the people in this room. But how could you not like people? And he said, well, there's two kinds of people I don't like. Those that abuse my staff, and those who blow off their appointment and don't call me. Because basically I sell inventory of time. And if you don't make your dentist appointment, I can't reuse that hour. I live outside the DC area, right? Somebody gives me a call and says, hey, Steve, we've got an opening for the dentist. Can you be here in 15 minutes? And I'm like, are you kidding me? We can't be anywhere in 15 minutes. And so he goes through every year and he looks at those people who have consistently been difficult, either abusive to their staff or abusive to the business. And wouldn't that be interesting if we did it? Let's work backwards from the reality and say, you know what, I bet we can reverse engineer a market segment by finding those businesses that are good for us, those businesses who are willing to pay and they don't hold our feet to the fire. My father-in-law is the worst possible customer. He's a hateful, mean-spirited old man. And yeah, that's on videotape. Okay. Okay. Anyway, he called me recently and he said, I'm thinking about buying a new computer. What do you recommend? Now, those of you who know me know I'm a big Apple guy. I'm not yet sleeping in the street waiting for the store to open. But I am sending my son to do that. So, anyway, he said, I'm thinking about buying a computer. What do you recommend? And I was stumped. I can think of no computer vendor I hate enough to recommend to my father-in-law because he's going to be a complete pain in the ass. And so I said, you know, they don't make computers anymore. I'm hoping he'll get like one laptop per child and be done with it, you know. But why is he difficult? The answer is he's cheap and he wants a high level of support. You know what? I'm going to call him from my customer list. I no longer support his portion of the family. I don't know about you. I'm tech support for everyone who knows a member of my family, right? But he's been cut off from my list. And as we, nonetheless, so what if we worked from the tactics and worked backwards? And we looked at what selling techniques worked and keep doing those. And look at what selling techniques don't work, like wandering through LinkedIn with people who have the right title and then calling them out of the blue saying, dude, I think you have a problem, let me sell you some stuff. If that's not working, you know what? Let's not do that anymore. You know, if we're bulk mailing and that's not getting results, then let's not promote that way anymore. Let's look at our successes and work backwards instead of saying it's all about grand strategy. Can businesses be agile? I think they can. Certainly Eric Ries thinks they can. So often it's like we've got this business plan and we have to follow it. You know, it's like a 3, 5, 7-year plan. And you know what? I'm not even sure they exist. I've talked to a lot of presidents who seem to be 1 week ahead of you in terms of strategic. You know, you're thinking to Friday, they're thinking to next Friday. But the great thing about a lot of the Agile things, we've got an Agile track going on over here. One of the great things about Agile is you can now build the wrong product faster than ever before. Good news. But what's brilliant about Agile is you can get constant feedback on what you're building and adjust your strategy. In the case of my daughter's company, she has come backwards and said, you know, I did all this pre-work, you know, I followed the pragmatic marketing metaphor, I did the grid, right? And now the reality of my market is different than what I was expecting, and I'm adjusting my strategy based on what is tactically working. But here's the big idea for today. Let's stop reinventing the wheel. How many things do we do that are like, okay, we went to Scrum training and we learned about, you know, we listened to the market or we listened to one another and we write a backlog and we take the product backlog and turn it into a release backlog and we take a release backlog and turn it into a sprint backlog and then we sit next to the developers reading aloud to them from the backlog in case they have any questions, right? And then afterwards we see a demo and we say, well, this sucks, and they go, well, tough, the sprint's over, and then you ship it, right? But you know what? I wrote an article about Agile a while back, and I sent it to my dad, who was an engineer, is an engineer. Well, I don't know what, he's retired. Let's just leave it. Anyway, he was an engineer. And he said, you know, there's nothing new here in Agile. We were doing this 20, 30 years ago. It's called listen, think about it, and do something, and then tell people. Every process is that. We listen, we decide to do something, we do something, we then review what we did, and we tell people. And isn't that what a product backlog is, and a release backlog, and a sprint backlog? We're using the same metaphor, and golly, I wonder if we couldn't use the same metaphor for marketing. I am. I've got a backlog of all the things that I want to do, and I prioritize it, and I put prices next to it. How much is this going to cost, and this going to cost, and this going to cost? And I keep spending money on my backlog until I run out of money, and then I stop. Isn't that the way you do development? How many things in the organization, and to me this is the interesting question, how many things in the organization could we do using the same metaphors, the same planning methods? Why does every department have to create their own thing when fundamental good planning practices are what we know? Can't we use those techniques elsewhere? Does that make any sense? I kind of anyway, 20 years ago, I was the head of marketing for a software company, and I didn't know that I had just invented Scrum. Damn it, I should have written a book. I was doing this with my marketing planning. I wrote down everything I wanted to do, sorted it by priority, had a cut line when I ran out of money, and I was in a meeting, and Bob, one of the guys in customer support, basically attacked me and said, damn it, we ought to be doing this marketing program, and why aren't we? And I gave a good political answer. You know, oh, we the team felt that, you know, strategic alignment, synergy. And then he wouldn't let me up. And he's like, and he's like, no, really, you know, he's in my face. And finally I said, you know what? I ran out of money. It didn't make the cut. And he's like, well, it's more important than anything else we're doing. And I went, great. How about, here's a list of everything we're doing. Let's delete the website. That'll save us $50,000 right there. And he's like, no, we can't do that. I'm like, okay, good. How about we, you know, and I just went down the list of all the things that we had prioritized, and sure enough, everything on the list was more important than his pet project. If we can't pay for it, we're not going to do it. I wonder how much we can use the techniques that you're using today in Agile or learning today in the Agile tracks. Can we use that in other parts of the business? But when you approach a process, remember all processes are this. You just listen, you decide, you do, you tell people. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. And so here's what I'm becoming to believe on this tactic to strategy thing. For most of you, you're not the one with the big idea. There's a wonderful video on YouTube, and I think the search string is "you need a follower," but it's a crazy loony guy who is dancing in the park by himself. And everybody looks at this guy and he's going, what the hell is wrong with this guy? And then another guy gets up and starts dancing with him. And now there's two people, and everybody goes, apparently we're dancing. You know, and then a bunch of other people start dancing. And I think that's the metaphor for a business.
The first follower.
The first follower on YouTube.
Yeah.
Search for the first follower. And I think a lot of us, for those of you who are in a startup, for instance, it wasn't your big idea. It was somebody else's big idea. And you have the opportunity to be the first follower, or the third, or the fourth, right? And instead of saying my job is to, as a product manager, is to have the big idea, your job as a product manager is to turn it into action. Because a lot of times the idea guys don't have the operational skill to make it happen. Does that sound familiar? They start with, you know, all we have to do is, and they carve out this big honking thing, and somebody has to take that big idea and turn it into action. In many cases, we have to justify it. We have to reverse engineer the market evidence. That we say, okay, well, we've decided to do this thing. Let's go find out if anybody wants that thing. And so we survey 50 people, or we interview 30 people, right? And then we translate that into the different groups that need to consume this information. To develop product, to develop promotions, to develop a repeatable sales process, to operate it after the sale. And then here's the part I think most of us miss, and this is what I'm seeing in a lot of the teams that I'm working with today, is product management's a powerful part of product management that many of us are not doing is the after analysis. It's the retrospective. The retrospective is so not American. You know, we don't like to think about stuff. You know, let's just go bomb some people and then go, that was fun, let's go home, right? We don't really have a plan beyond the bombing. Sorry, little too true. Okay. But we don't do the retrospective well. Let's see what worked. Let's see what didn't. Let's do more of what worked, and let's stop doing what doesn't work, and refine. And then we'll find ourselves in a position where we can recommend future ideas. I think a lot of times we are told by our bosses or our founder or our consultant, you have to start with a big idea. And what I'm seeing is most of us don't start with a big idea. Most of us get stuck here in the middle somewhere. And we have to turn that into analysis so that we can make rational recommendations. And turn the big idea into all the tedious work that is necessary. One sentence from the president is 6 months of work for development. And I think if we do a better job of explaining this, maybe the leadership can see that they should stop getting together every Friday and talking about the product. Alan, could you find some more? Thank you. And here's what I see many of us doing. I work with a lot of salespeople who do win-loss analysis, or so they say. Do they? Do your salespeople analyze their wins and losses? No, they report them. And why did we win? Anybody know? Why did we win? Because your sales guy was great, right? Why did we lose?
Product sucks.
Product sucks. Well done. All most companies are doing is reporting. That's an empty cup. There's an actual tap. Oh, look at that. And glasses right here. Or even bottles of water right there. Okay, thank you. I'm better. So many teams spend all their time reporting. Not enough of us are analyzing. Let's look at the reality and analyze it and say, you know what? Companies that look like this are terrible customers. And companies that look like this are great customers. And salespeople who look like this are terrible salespeople. And salespeople who look like this are good salespeople. Let's look at our customers and build our personas. Let's look at the methods that work and analyze them and make strategic decisions. So here's the 1555 thing. I believe, I'll talk about this in my session, but I think the absolute best research tool is conversation. I think a lot of you try to use a survey when you need to be doing a discussion. We need to have more conversations, and it doesn't have to be face-to-face, it can be on the phone. But it's amazing what you can learn by just talking to somebody. And we take those conversations and steer them around these kinds of questions. Who are the company's best customers and why? Which products best fit our portfolio? What features make the product remarkable? What's the best way to reach clients? And what do our clients need to achieve success? It is definitely more than your software. It's the whole service that goes around the software. Analyzing these kinds of things gives you a seat at the executive table because you have something other than opinion to bring to the party. And I wonder, could we get by on only 5 templates? How many artifacts do you create in your organization? Do you really need them all? I mean, how many of them do you take the core of this document and paste it into that document? Or we print off these massive things that you know nobody is reading. So for me, the minimum 5 set of products for a product manager, the artifacts for a product manager is a portfolio roadmap, the product backlog, the promotion backlog, which is the same thing but for marketing programs, a pricing model, and a financial plan. And do we need more than that? Maybe in your company we do, but gosh, do we? Or is it we've always done it that way? And then finally, here are my 5 principles. Let's do it right so we don't have to do it over. And this is something that completely separates traditional product managers from salespeople. Salespeople have no comprehension of doing it right. They're only focused on doing it. Haven't you found? And I've worked in organizations where it is so sales-oriented that the product manager's job is really janitorial. It's trying to clean up the messes made. And our friend Saeed Khan puts it really well. He says you have to nail it before you scale it. And in a lot of organizations, we've scaled it, but we haven't nailed it. And so we spend an awful lot of time in rework. Reuse methods whenever you can. This whole idea of the Scrum backlog. Why don't we use that for other parts of our business? Create a few living documents. I hate documents that are dead. And I think it's probably 5, or it's certainly under 10. And then, I know it's crazy, but let's just do more of what's working and stop doing things that are not working. I talked to somebody recently. I'll do it this way. One of my people asked me recently about signing up with a well-known industry analyst. You know who I mean. And I'm like, I have no interest in that because this analyst doesn't do good work for me. It doesn't generate results for me. Another query came from, hey, we ought to go to a trade show and have an exhibit and hand out brochures to, losers. And And I'm paraphrasing. And I'm like, that doesn't work for us. What works for us is inbound marketing rather than outbound marketing. We're going to do more of what works and stop doing things that don't work. And then finally, look at everything from the buyer's point of view. So those are my artifacts. Have at least one research tool that you own. Go have some conversations with people. Call them on the phone. Visit them at events like this. But always have personal experience with the customer. Have a few questions that you always ask. Have a few living documents. Let's stop killing trees. Let's stop writing articles that nobody reads except you. And then finally, how well can you implement those principles in your organization? The final idea I want to share with you is this. So many people ask me how to get into product management, or where should I take my career, or what's the next step for me? And what we do isn't factory work. It's not like we go to a factory and wait for MRDs to come by so that we can add our signature to them. You know, it's not like we're building widgets. You need to find something that leverages you. What is your expertise? Or over time, let's build a reputation. Over time, let's build a passion. And ultimately, inspiration comes from your knowledge of the market, your passion for the market, your reputation in the market. Because you don't want to sell your time. You want to offer your expertise. And this is one of the things that I'm really seeing as companies start, as product manager friends of mine start looking forward. They're looking at, how do I be smarter about what we're doing? How can we be more agile in our artifacts? How can I spend more time working on things that work and less time working on things that don't work? I know it sounds really simple, but you know what? Most of life really is quite simple. Do more of what works, stop doing things that don't work. Like, maybe you don't have to be available 24 hours a day to respond to emails. One of my friends has a wonderful away message, an out-of-office message, which is, we will get back to you in no less than 24 hours. Here's the link to the sales intranet. Learn to read. Wouldn't that be great? And yet we're so responsive, who's getting any work done? So here are my coordinates. Stay in touch with me. It's the same spot as before. So my phone number, my Twitter handle, and my blog. I hope you'll participate. I hope you'll leave some comments on my blog. And I'm here all day, and I am doing a session later on, but I hope you'll hang with me in the hallway in a moment, so I'm going to turn it back over to Lee.